Welcome to Best MMA Picks. I'm your host, JD, and we're going to break down this very large card here coming up this next weekend on February the 21st, taking place in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We have UFC Fight Night, Donald Cowboy Cerrone versus Alex Cowboy Oliveira, Cowboy versus Cowboy. And with me here, I have a special guest, MMASAVANT, Twitter handle at MMASAVANT, or I believe it's at MMA_savant.
That's correct.
Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience with MMA and wrestling and grappling.
All right. No problem. Hey, guys, MMA Savant here. I've been a fan of MMA for about a decade now. I follow the sport pretty religiously, and I've been doing grappling and Muay Thai and basic MMA for about 6 or 7 years now. I'm a Herb Dean certified referee, judge, and inspector, and I was at Extreme Couture on the grappling team for about 9 or 10 months. I was at AKA Sunnyvale. It's a satellite school under Dave Camarillo and his black belts for about 3 years. And then I was at the Gracie affiliate for about a year and a half, 2 years. And I do about 90% grappling and 10% striking. So that's my MMA experience. And I have a couple of amateur fights. I'm 1-1. And that's basically my MMA totality, if you will. So, JD, back to you.
Thanks for sharing that and just kind of giving the background. I invited MMASAVANT on here because he's been doing really well with a lot of his picks. Last card, he went 10-12 and picked several really big underdog plays that cashed a lot for some people. And he's also helped me with some of my decisions as far as making picks. So I really have appreciated that. And I kind of wanted to, help him out, help him kind of get a following. So make sure you go check him out, Twitter at MMA_savant. And so, yeah, I really appreciate you being on here and giving your input on these fights. So the way that we're going to do it is we're just going to break the card down rather quickly, 1 to 2 minutes per fight. And I'm going to kind of give my lean and my take on the fight, and then MMASAVANT's going to give his lean, and we may agree on some of them, we may not agree, and that's okay, but that's what's going to make it fun. So we'll go ahead and we'll start this one out from the bottom. We've got Anthony Hamilton, Freight Train Hamilton versus Shamil Abdurakhimov, Russian Dagestani fighter, versus the USA-based Jackson's MMA Winklejohn fighter. Anthony Hamilton's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's 14-4. Shamil is he's a technical striker. Has a master's of combat in kickboxing, international masters of combat. It's a Russian form of kind of like a belt system. He's also a 5-time Russian champ in contact wushu sanda, and he also he's a world champion in kick jitsu, which I'm not really familiar with. But he's got striking credentials there. Also some grappling credentials as well, but more of a striker, more of a technical striker. My take on this, I really like Anthony Hamilton here because viewing some of the footage I've seen of Shamil, I really don't think he has a whole lot of power. He's more of a technical striker. He's quick. I think he's going to have a speed advantage here. I think Anthony Hamilton's going to have decent speed as well, though. He's a UFC caliber fighter that we've already seen. He's got lots of power, and he's got a lot more experience of UFC caliber opponents. He also he throws at a really high rate. He throws at over 5.5 strikes per minute, which I like. I like the volume from Anthony Hamilton. So my lean here is for Anthony Hamilton to defeat Shamil Abdurakhimov by TKO. And I'm not sure when that's going to be. What's your take on this one?
All right, well, I'm pretty much with you. If you factor in that he's with Jackson Wink, those guys always game plan perfectly. He's got the reach advantage. He's got the cage experience. I don't see any reason why he can't get this done. TKO late in the first. I'm with you on that one.
Right on. Let's move on to the next one. Got Sarah Cheesecake Morris versus Lauren Murphy. 2 women's bantamweights, one of which, Sarah Morris, is a TUF contestant. She's a wrestler based out of Kelowna, BC. She's got a purple belt in BJJ, no-gi. She fights out of Toshido camp out of Kelowna, the same camp that Rory McDonald came from. A couple of her strengths, she's mainly the wrestling bread and butter fighter. She's a decent striker, although she leaves herself open a lot and is prone to mistakes. And she is prone to being reversed on the mat as well with very experienced grapplers.
Yeah.
Lauren Murphy, 8-2, purple belt in BJJ as well. She comes out of the MMA lab. She's a boxer. She trains alongside Smooth Benson Henderson and a couple other good fighters down there in Arizona. She's actually coming off of 2 very upsetting losses to Liz Carmouche and Sarah McMahon. My take on this fight, my lean is to go with Lauren Murphy to defeat Sarah Morris by decision. I like that she's coming off 2 losses. She's probably got a chip on her shoulder there and wants to get a big win. And I think this is a perfect fight for her to do so. What's your take?
Well, I'm with you on that one, except we just learned that this fight, Sarah Morris is out of the fight.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, it just came up a couple hours ago.
Wow.
But
You're
I had
on top of it.
by decision.
Do they have a new opponent for her, or are they still kind of in the works there?
Yeah, it's still in the works if they're going to scrap the fight or keep it on or what. But as of right now, out of the fight totally. But I did have Lauren Murphy by decision.
Right on. Well, hopefully, I like Murphy with regardless of who she fights. Hopefully, maybe a new UFC debut or something. I like her experience and I like her abilities here versus just about anybody. She's a scrapper. I like her. She's had a high level of competition too. So we'll see who they put her up against. Hopefully they get her new opponent.
Yeah.
So for our next fight, we have Marianne Hinault versus Ashley Evans Smith. And Marianne Hinault is she's a brown belt in BJJ and a blue belt of Muay Thai under Rafael Cordero. She's 6-2. Ashley Evans Smith is 3-1, and she's more of a wrestler. She's actually a very high credentialed women's wrestler, Division I women's wrestler. I looked at footage on both these gals. Definitely a strength and wrestling advantage for Ashley Evans Smith. She's got decent striking, although kind of raw. She's very strong, very, very strong for her class. Marianne Hinault is also very strong as well, though, and she's also very crafty. She's got really good takedown defense. She throws at a high volume, almost 1.6 strikes more or 1.4 strikes more per minute than Ashley Evans Smith. She's got good submissions as well off her back. She submitted, forget who it was. She submitted, I think, her last fight right off her back. So I like Marianne Hinault to defeat Ashley Evans by decision here. What are you have anything to add to that?
So I know Marianne Hinault and the guy she trains with. They call her Momo. She has a loss to the current champion, Holly Holm. She's out of there with Doug DeRino Marshall in Visalia, California. She's been there for quite a while. I have her to win late in the first round from a Thai plum TKO due to elbows to finish Ashley Smith in the late in the first, early in the second.
I like that. I think she looks really sharp. Her recent fights, she looks like she just keeps improving every fight, and I'm a fan actually. I think she's just gonna keep getting better and better. Hopefully, a title contender eventually.
Yeah.
Right on. First round, huh? Think she's gonna finish her?
I think so.
Might be worth looking at the under on an underplay there because the female underplays usually pay 2-1, which is pretty good. Moving on to our next fight, one that I'm really looking forward to here, and the start of the Fox Sport 1 prelims. We've got Jonathan Webb and Nathan Coy. Jonathan Webb trains out of – where does he train out of?
He's out of Henzo Gracie, Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, Henzo Gracie. Is he a black belt?
He is a black belt, and I believe his black belt is actually from Henzo. He's a former wrestler.
Pretty high credentials there.
Yes.
Okay, so Jonathan Webb, mainly a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy, Also has decent striking as well. Has a win over former Bellator champ Lyman Good. And Coy trains out of American Top Team, has some experience on Ultimate Fighter. He's a mainly bread and butter wrestler, has good jits, though, on the ground. He has been vulnerable, though, from top position to submissions in the past. Has some holes, I think, in his striking as well. I have Webb winning this one by submission, probably early. Have anything to add to my prediction there, or you have a different prediction?
No, I also have Jonathan Webb to win it. I'm going to say TKO, maybe late in the second.
I'd have to agree with you there. I don't like that he's tentative on his striking. I think Coy is a little bit reckless at times with striking, but he throws, which I like with Coy. He's got the 4.53 strikes landed per minute and pretty high accuracy. Webb does have a loss to Kyle Noak, which, kind of worries me a little bit coming into the UFC, with right off the bat with a loss. But I think Nathan Coy is kind of a tailor-made fight for him. I think maybe UFC might be looking to move him on up, kind of get some recognition there for him. I'm not sure about that, but I'm pretty confident on this pick with Jonathan Webb.
Yeah, I'm going with Jonathan Webb by stoppage, second round.
All right, moving on to the next. Got Trevor Hot Sauce Smith, and Leonardo Augusto Guimaraes. I don't even know if I pronounced that right.
Sounds good to me.
I watched film on both these guys. I know that the record here with Leonardo is 11-1. And he does have some decent Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I was trying to figure out what belt he was, and I think he's at least a brown. I think he is a purple at least. I know he's a purple at least, but I'm not sure if he actually has a brown belt or not. So he's got decent Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He's been fighting professionally for a couple of years now, and he's gotten that 11-1 record, but it's been mostly lower caliber opponents. What I recognize with viewing him on tape is he's kind of a reckless striker / brawler, and he has been tagged by lower tier MMA fighters and rocked pretty good, but he's somehow managed to find a way to win in almost all his fights. Has just one lone loss. I think it was early on in his career, if I remember correctly. Trevor Smith is also kind of a brawler, but more of a technical brawler, in my opinion. He likes to bully guys up against the cage. He's really good out of the plum. He's got good striking. He's got good endurance. He can take hard shots, as we've seen in some of his past fights. I've got Trevor to win this one, probably by a decision. That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one. I watched footage of Leonardo, and I think Trevor Smith, it might be too much too soon for him. Trevor Smith is a high school state champion out of Longview, Washington State, and he's also a junior college All-American. So he's got the wrestling chops down. I have Trevor Smith to win by decision.
So I think we're in agreement there. I'm kind of curious what the lines are set at for that as far as gambling is concerned. A lot of these fights they have the betting on hold, and I can't look at the lines. And I don't even see Trevor Smith on here. They don't have a lineup yet. But I'm kind of curious to see what they end up setting that line at. They must still be handicapping that Leleco fighter. But anyway, I've got Trevor Smith as well. Next fight, we have Daniel Sarafian versus Aluwale Bambosi, Holy War Angel. I looked, I'm very familiar with both these guys. Bambosi's coming off of a loss to Uriah Hall, which I think was kind of a big, he tried to bite off more than, he tried to he's basically getting himself in deep right off the bat and coming off into his UFC debut. I think
Yeah,
that was too much too soon for him. They're giving him kind of a step down as far as competition with Daniel Sarafian, who is, in my opinion, a very good fighter, but he definitely has some holes in his game. Grappler-based fighter who likes to throw heavy leather, who's more of a brawler, likes to bully guys against the cage, shoots for a lot of doubles. Um, Very strong and big for 185. Bambosi is actually a black belt in Taekwondo, has some really nasty leg kicks. If you look at some of the footage on him, has gotten a couple of head kick KOs that were just absolutely brutal. Trains out of New York, has kind of his own gym, I believe. Um, I'm going with Sarafian on this one just because I think that Bambosi is a little bit raw still. I think unless he's made some uber improvements, and I think he needs to get in some other camps elsewhere to get really some decent takedown defense and some defense against submissions. And I think Sarafian is going to be definitely live against him as far as submissions are concerned. I think there's definitely a possibility that he gets him on the ground, and if he does, it's going to get ugly and he'll probably get a submission. So I'm going with Daniel Sarafian to defeat Alawale Bambosi by a submission in the second round.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you there. Daniel Sarafian was on the Tough Brazil show. He's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Bambosi, he came in on short notice to fight Uriah Hall, and they kept him around. He did lose that fight by TKO in the first, I believe. But like you said, I think this is too much too soon for him. He's got potential, but Daniel Sarafian, he's been around for a while. I see the stoppage happening, and the fight going the way of Sarafian.
I think there's also a possibility here remotely. I mean, Sarafian has a pretty good chin. Did he get TKO'd at all in Ultimate Fighter? I don't remember. Did you watch Ultimate Fighter Brazil?
Yeah, I watched it.
Did he ever get rocked or stopped?
No. He won them all.
He's got a pretty good chin.
Yeah.
I understand. And I don't think he's going to get phased by any of the head kicks or any of the kicks for that matter.
He's been knocked out before in his professional career. He's got one TKO. He's got a loss to Mutanche by decision. He got submitted by Kichi Kunamoto.
That was kind of a fluke, in my opinion, but
that was kind of weird.
Yeah, so I've got Sarafian here as well. I have to agree with you there, but I do think there's a remote possibility that if Bambosi gets a lucky kick in, he could put him to sleep. But I see this going the opposite. Moving on here, Alex Garcia, the Dominican Nightmare versus Sean Strickland. Garcia trains out of TriStar under Faraz Sahabi out of Toronto, I believe it is, or is it Montreal, Quebec?
I think it's Toronto.
Toronto. Sean Strickland, Tarzan, 16-1 record, has a lone loss against Ponzinibbio. It's more of a stand-up striker, very technical striker. Viewing the footage with both these guys, Strickland, I like the way that he throws. He's very technical, very methodical, has a high fight IQ. He's not the strongest fighter. He's got kind of smaller hands, so he doesn't have that KO power. He has finished guys before, but he's definitely not a heavy-handed. I wouldn't call him a heavy-handed striker. But he throws well and he's accurate. He is vulnerable though to being counter-struck. And he's been vulnerable when he gets hit. He tends to kind of slow down a little bit. It slows his movement down. Garcia, he's got good takedown defense as well. Decent takedown defense. Garcia, on the other hand, is a very explosive striker and a very explosive grappler. He's improved dramatically on his striking since being with Zahabi. He's very strong. He's considered to be one of the strongest fighters that Zahabi has actually trained. I think they say that he is the strongest at that gym, or one of the strongest guys. He averaged 5 takedowns per match. I've got Alex Garcia winning this one just by overpowering Sean Strickland, more than likely getting him to the ground or even KOing him on the feet. What do you have to say about this one?
Hey.
Still with me?
Yeah, you kind of froze up or cut out or something for like 15 solid seconds.
Still there?
I'm here.
Okay, I hear you loud and clear. I've got Alex Garcia winning this one by decision.
Yeah, I have Alex Garcia to win it. Sean Strickland is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt. And looking back at his record, he actually has a win over my very, very first MMA coach, a guy named Bill Albrecht. So that's pretty cool to see him on the list. Sucks that he lost, but, you know. Anyway, Alex Garcia, I think it's too much for him. He's got wins over Mike Swick, and I'm, a longtime fan of Mike Swick. He doesn't have more has in 2 to Sean Strickland's 1. But I feel like this one's going to go the way of Alex Garcia, probably by decision.
I think he's too athletic and too explosive.
Yeah, I agree.
And he's been making improvements too. He's gotten more technical and he's conserving his gas tank better. He used to have a problem with gassing early on. He'd go for that KO and gas. But I think Zahabi's been really good for him as far as game planning.
Yeah.
All right. We ready for the next?
Let's do it.
Got James Krause versus Shane Campbell. Krause, what do you know about the credentials of these guys?
Well, I know that James Krause is an MMA-based guy, and Shane Campbell is a former kickboxer. James Krause is taking on Shaolin here. I have James Krause to win it by decision. No real rhyme or reason. That's just what my gut feeling is. And I didn't spend too much time on this fight because this fight to me is I just don't have a lot invested in this fight, pretty much. But Shane Campbell can win with the striking experience, but I just feel because the reach advantage goes to James Krause, the cage experience, the UFC experience, more submissions. They're almost even on KOs and TKOs. They're off by 10%, 42 to 32%. I see James Krause winning this fight by late submission or decision.
I think we're going to have our first disagreement here.
Okay.
Savant. I've actually got the opposite of you here. After looking at some footage on these guys, I do like James Krause. I think he's more technical of a striker than Shane Campbell. He's good on his feet. He looks like he has kind of like a karate-based background or kickboxing or something along those lines. I don't know what his actual striking base is, but he's very technical, and he's had a high level of competition too. But the thing that I really noticed with Shane Campbell had a previous fight with John McDessie, who's actually fights at a lower weight class, but is a very explosive and powerful striker. And I think he's like a Taekwondo striker, if I remember correctly. Shane Campbell's more of a Muay Thai-based striker, but he throws some very powerful and wicked leg kicks to the body, particularly. And one thing that I noticed about Krause is in his previous fights, where he's gotten banged up early on, he tends to really slow down and it really inhibits his movement, and he throws a lot less as he's getting hit more. And Shane Campbell, he throws at a very high volume, and he just keeps coming. but he is very susceptible to getting tagged. But the guy can take a hard hit, very hard hit. Kraus, in my opinion, doesn't have that KO power to put Shane Campbell away, and I think it's gonna go all 3 rounds. And I think eventually James Krause, those kicks are just gonna wear him out. It's gonna slow him down, and he's just gonna get tired. And I think the will of Shane Campbell is gonna really show through here. I think it might be worth a look at an underdog play here on Campbell, because I think a lot of people are going to be playing Krause as a favorite. And I like Campbell here. I really like the way that he fought against McDessie, even though that he got finished in that fight. He was winning the first round against McDessie. So I've got Campbell here winning this one by decision.
Yeah, I can see if Shane Campbell throws leg kicks and wears him down. That's definitely a possibility. This is a pretty even matchup. So you've got Shane Campbell, and I've got James Krause.
Correcto.
All right.
May the best man win.
Win.
All right. Next fight, Chris Camozzi, Joe Diesel Riggs. Very, very experienced fighter versus an also very, very experienced fighter. Many people would say that both these guys are kind of on their last leg in the UFC. So, I mean, Joe Riggs just came kind of back into the UFC again. Chris Camozzi's, he had like 5 losses in a row, and I'm just surprised that he's still around. But he's a very good fighter. Both these guys are grapplers, very good MMA grapplers. They both got a lot of tools in their arsenal, as far as submissions, decent striking on both ends. I'd give a slight advantage to Riggs on the striking. Really like his Muay Thai and his elbows and ground and pound. I really like his ground and pound. Camozzi doesn't throw quite as hard on the ground as Riggs, but he has decent wrestling and ground and pound as well. Probably a little bit better on the feet, throws a little bit more than Riggs. I've got Riggs winning this one by a close decision.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to go opposite you on this one, too. I'm going to go Chris Camozzi. He doesn't have quite the mileage that Joe Riggs has, but he's got enough to not make any silly mistakes. And Joe Riggs is coming off that gunshot wound, and also I don't know what you call it. He fought Ben Saunders, and something happened to his neck or something, and he had to tap out or whatever. So he's got some things going against him. I mean, he is a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's probably better than that, though. He's probably a black belt in overall grappling.
Yeah, he's fought against black belts before.
Oh, yeah. He actually has a win over Nick Diaz, and he's got a lot of good fights, a lot of big names, on his mantelpiece. He's out of the MMA lab, and Chris Camozzi, I see him being too smart and too savvy is the word I'm looking for, to make any mistakes against Joe Riggs. I don't think it'll be a spectacular finish. I just feel like it'll be a don't get knocked out, don't get submitted, play it safe. And I'm looking for – I believe that Chris Camozzi is out of he's a brown belt also. So they're pretty even there. He is 6'3", and he's got a little bit longer reach advantage, by about 3.5 inches.
He's got a 6-inch reach advantage. 76 inches to 70. Wow, that is a very large reach advantage.
Oh, I'm on his wiki page. It's 75.5 inches. Is he 70 inches?
Riggs? It says on the UFC website Riggs is 70. Maybe that's
wow. Okay.
I'm sticking with correct stuff on here.
Yeah. Then I am sticking with Chris Camozzi.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens there.
All right.
We have some differences in opinion. That's good. All right. Next fight, Brandon Ruckus Thatch versus Sire Bahadurzada, the Great, an Afghani
Pretty close.
Brandon Thatch trains out of Elevation MMA in Colorado. I'm not sure where Bahadurzada trains out of.
He's out of Team Golden Glory in the Netherlands.
Okay, so yeah, he did move to the Netherlands.
Yeah.
He was an immigrant, I believe. His family was, but basically striker versus striker here. Thatch has some really good grappling though, and good takedown defense when he needs to use it. But his bread and butter is that striking / boxing and Muay Thai. Very good striker, throws at a decent rate, and is a big fighter for his weight class. I really don't have much to say here other than, I mean, Bahadurzada definitely has one punch KO power, but I don't see him getting the better on the feet here. I see Thatch winning this one by a KO, TKO rather easily, probably early in the first round.
Yeah, I have Brandon Thatch to win it also. I see him getting up against the cage and throwing the elbows. CR Bahadurzada came in and he flatlined Paulo Thiago, and he had a really impressive debut. But after that, it just kind of fizzled out. He's had a really long layoff, and Thatch, he trains at elevation. Colorado, he trains up there at high elevation. He's taller, rangier. His only losses are to Gunnar Nelson, who's a world-class black belt, and to Benson Henderson, who's also a fantastic grappler.
Yeah, I like that he's coming off 2 losses because he really needs this win, and I think he's going to get it.
Yeah, I agree.
We're having a little bit of connectivity issues here. You still with me?
I'm here.
All right. Next fight, Dennis the Menace Bermudez, Tatsuya Kawajiri. Both these guys are really great grapplers. Kawajiri, the much more experienced grappler and fighter out of Japan. I think he also fought in Pride, if I remember, or K1, one of the two Japanese promotions. Has fought throughout the UFC, and I think maybe even Strikeforce, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on that, though. Bermudez is an Ultimate Fighter finalist. He lost to Diego Brandao, got submitted, but a very good grappler and decent boxer. Kawajiri's, I think, got too much mileage. I think Bermudez is gonna overwhelm him with the grappling and the explosiveness, possibly even get a TKO here. Kawajiri has had some issues with his chin. I expect that's the way that it's going to go down, probably a late TKO. So I've got Bermudez by TKO here.
I agree, except for I just got a little thing here. Brandon Thatch and CR Bahadurzada, the fight has been scratched. It has now been moved to UFC 196.
Live update.
Live, coming to you live.
Coming to you live.
This just it. Yeah, no, I have Bermudez to win. The last fight I can recall was against Jeremy Stevens, that he was knocked out, or it was a flying knee, I believe. What was a loss? And Kawajiri didn't look too impressive against the very late notice fighter out of Alan Belcher School. I have Dennis Bermudez to win this by TKO, ground and pound, middle of the third, or decision.
Right on. I'm pretty confident with this pick too. I think Thatch was one of my more confident picks, but I think Bermudez is probably my second most confident pick. Definitely worth a look there on the under and on Bermudez in a parlay, but I'm not sure how I'll play that out depending on how the odds are. Next fight that we're looking at, John Lineker, Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt he's actually training partially at Jackson's MMA for this fight. So he had like a 3 or 4 week camp, I believe, at Jackson's, Winklejohn. And he's also Team Alpha Male fighter, training alongside Uriah Faber, formerly TJ Dillashaw and company. John Lineker, hands of stone, likes to brawl, got good stand-up and lots of power. Coming off of a submission win to Francisco Rivera, I believe. Or yeah. Who did he fight last? Was it Rivera?
Yeah, no, his last fight was no, it was hold on, let me find it here. Lineker. Okay, here we go. His last fight, I think you're right, was Francisco Rivera. He won by guillotine choke.
Yeah, they got into a very violent trade, brawl, just violence. Uh, he tagged him several times, had him really hurt, but Rivera is having problems putting him away, and he just teeing off on him repeatedly. Finally, Rivera kind of collapses on the ground, and he locks in a guillotine choke and is able to finish it right before he gassed. It was kind of almost humorous in a way how it happened because Rivera was still throwing as he was getting tagged. It could have been either guy's fight, but Lineker is getting much better exchanges there. But Lineker is definitely not. I wouldn't say he's a technical striker. And I've been looking at some footage on Garbrandt, and he's a very solid boxer. He's 32-1 amateur. He's a very intelligent fighter. He studies his opponents the first round, and he knows how to wrestle very well from being at Team Alpha Male. So he can steal rounds with his takedowns, and he's really good at timing those. Probably from working with Uriah Faber. The guy is he's a very efficient fighter. He doesn't throw a ton. He throws, but he doesn't throw relentlessly, and he doesn't use up his entire gas tank. He saves most of it for the third round. I've seen the guy throw, and I've seen his training videos. The guy has ridiculously fast hand speed, and when he wants to tee off, he can, but he typically doesn't. And so I think this is kind of a tailor-made fight for Garbrandt, and many would disagree with me here. They think Lineker's going to get him, but I don't think that. I think that Lineker's strategy is going to work against him here, and I think that Garbrandt's boxing, he's got the superior boxing. He can take a hard shot. He took some hard knees against Briones. Briones got him on a flying knee, and he also tagged him several times, and he was able to take those shots no problem. And he's a smart fighter. I've got Cody Garbrandt. I'm going out on a limb here as an underdog play. I've got Cody Garbrandt winning this one by a decision.
All right. I believe that John Lineker, who is a brawler, he's got too much cage experience. I believe that his brawling style will take Cody Garbrandt out of his stance and get caught. Garbrandt will get caught. And I see TKO. I see John Lineker finishing Cody Garbrandt. I don't know how.
Maybe by a sub even. He might rock him and sub him.
I went back and forth on this one here for a long time because I want Cody Garbrandt to be the next big thing. But John Lineker, man, he's one tough customer. I don't know.
He definitely is. I'm not downplaying that at all, but I think Garbrandt's kind of the next poster boy, kind of the next Sage Northcutt poster boy that they're going to promote. One of them, anyway.
I hope so. We got a lot of killers, at this weight class. These two guys, or this guy, Thomas Almeida. There's some real good guys, and I want Cody Garbrandt to be the next big prospect. But on this one here, I got John Lineker. Stop him somehow.
Right on. Next fight, which I have not actually seen a whole lot of footage on. I am familiar with Derek Brunson, but Holm Carneiro I'm not super familiar with. Why don't you humor me and just kind of introduce these guys if you would?
All right. Holm Carneiro is one of the head coaches at American Top Team. He's a third-degree Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He was with Carlson Gracie for years and years. He's got a win over Mark Munoz in his return fight to the UFC, and he got invited back to the UFC because he won a one-night 8-man tournament where he beat a gentleman named Trey Houston. He beat and I can't remember his other opponent's name, but it was all in one night. And then, of course, Derek Brunson is out of I believe he's out of Jackson Wink.
He is.
Is he? Okay.
He actually
And
fought against Yoel Romero and was winning that fight.
huh?
He actually fought against Yoel Romero and was winning all 3 rounds until he got KO'd late third.
Yeah, I remember that fight.
He's a really legit wrestler, very strong grappler. I think he's a Division I wrestler, actually.
I think he's actually Division II on his wrestling, but I think it's like a 3-time All-American. So he's just as good as anybody else. You know, he's good enough. He's more than good enough.
He's adapted it very well to MMA.
Yes.
Better than a lot of Division I wrestlers have.
I try to find now. He's a purple belt, but he's got no submission losses. Whereas Juan Carnero will get gassed and get submitted if he's so tired. He's got a submission loss to John Fitch, and I want to say Tommy Spears got him too years ago. But for this one here, I have Derek Brunson to win, just based on aggression and the fact that he's a decade younger. But if I can add this though, if there is a upset of the night, I see, because if Derek Brunson shoots in, Juan Carnero loves anything from the front choke position. So Anaconda, Darce, Ninja Choke, high angle guillotine, regular guillotine, and prayer choke are all there for him, and he's very adept at using all of them. So I have Brunson to win it, but my upset possibility of the night is Juan Carnero to submit Derek Brunson, if that makes sense.
That makes complete sense. And you know what? Looking at this from a better standpoint, Brunson is a 3-1 favorite here. So you have to lay $300 to win 100, okay, roughly. And Carnero, you're getting back 300 for every 100. Actually, you're getting, I think, 320 or something like that. I haven't looked at it for a while, but the line's moving around there. But definitely, I think might be worth an underdog play. I mean, what do you think? If you're going to put money on one of these two guys, or just toss a little bit of change on one, wouldn't it be worth it to put some on Carnero?
I think so, because if Derek Brunson doesn't – now, Derek Brunson definitely has the reach advantage. It says 76 here for Jucal, but I believe he's about 74 on his other websites, and on his tail of the tapes I've seen, he's about 74 inches. That might be a misprint, but Derek Brunson is a 77-inch reach, and he knows how to use it. You know, keeping him at bay with the long jab. If he shoots in, look for the sub attempt by Jucal.
I can almost guarantee you that Brunson's going to go for at least 1 or 2 takedowns, though, unless he gets himself in trouble and gets himself in a guillotine quick. Then he might think twice about it. But I can guarantee he's going to try to get at least a couple takedowns. Yeah, that's his bread and butter. But maybe if he's getting the better on the feet here, maybe he'll just stay on the feet. He's got some good leg kicks, got a good head kick too.
You know, I try to find some footage of Derek Brunson grappling or going against a high-level jiu-jitsu player. He does have one fight against Jacare, but that fight ended like 40 seconds by knockout. So it didn't really do much for me.
Make sure you check out the fight against Yoel Romero. He took Yoel down, who is an Olympic silver medalist. He took Yoel down like 7 or 8 times.
Yeah, well, the reason why that works for him is because Yoel knows that it takes less energy to hop back up than it does to fight it off. I'm a big fan of Romero. You know, he defected from Cuba. I'm a big fan of his. And anyway, he's a silver medalist, but Derek Brunson looked very impressive against Romero.
Yeah, I was very impressed, but I had Romero there for my bet, and I cashed it, but I was really sweating it at the end there, and I was jumping up and down when I cashed it.
Oh, yeah. I'm a big fan of him.
All right, so I think we beat that one to death. Let's move on to the main event, Cowboy versus Cowboy. We've got an American Cowboy and a Brazilian Cowboy. Donald Cowboy Cerrone versus Alex Cowboy Oliveira. Trains out of Tata MMA in Rio. And we've got Donald Cerrone, who's a Jackson's MMA fighter. Donald Cerrone coming off that big loss, that finish against Dos Anjos. And Oliveira, who's coming off of a win, I believe.
Yes, sir. He's coming off a win against Piotr Holman.
Which was somewhat of a close fight, actually. Oliveira
Very
was
close.
getting the better there most of the fight, but Holman's definitely a tough opponent. Higher class striker, got decent, really good takedown defense, but he ended up finishing him late in the third, and it was actually performance of the night bonus for Oliveira. Um, I like this fight. I'm really excited for this. Is the one that I'm excited for the most on the card. Um, I went really back and forth on this fight. I just think that a lot of stuff's kind of not going Cerrone's way right now, and I mean, he's mentally a strong fighter, and mentally, we've seen him in the past where he goes in these little phases where he just goes on a mad streak, like 5 or 6 fights where he gets 5 or 6 wins in a row, and then he kind of fizzles out for a little while, and then he comes back. And I think he's not sliding, but he's definitely regressing a little bit from that crazy win streak that he had. Uh, and I like Oliveira. Oliveira is kind of going in the opposite direction here. I like Oliveira as an underdog play here, and you might be opposite of me on this. I originally was leaning with Donald Cowboy Cerrone on this, but I've changed my mind to Alex Cowboy Oliveira as an underdog play.
Really?
Yep. Last
All right.
minute.
Well, I'm also going with Alex Oliveira, Cowboy. And there's a few reasons why. The fight is at 170, and Donald Cerrone walks around at 177, whereas Cowboy drops down from 200 pounds. So I feel like the strength advantage and the aggression will be towards the Brazilian. And he has a reach advantage over Donald Cerrone by
3 inches.
3 inches.
Still with me?
Yeah.
I don't know
Can you hear me?
me cutting out or you. Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh shit. What part did I cut off on?
You cut off on the reach.
Okay. The Brazilian Cowboy has a 3-inch reach advantage, and after seeing the fight with Nathan Diaz against Cerrone a number of years ago, he doesn't do well if the other guy has a reach advantage. Now, all of his opponents have always been shorter than him. Now, Alex Oliveira is an orthodox striker, so if I'm his coach, I'm telling him to slip the two and come up hook to the body and start breaking down Donald Cerrone's right side, liver, rib cage, and everything, because that's what he's been susceptible to off southpaw, or do a switch kick in your orthodox stance and start targeting that. I just see Alex Cowboy winning this fight by stoppage.
Pretty bold prediction there. A lot of people are going to disagree with that. Yeah. I think I have it by a decision.
Decision.
I like Oliveira. I just think he's a sneaky fighter. He's sneaky and he's really intelligent. But Cerrone is as well. Cerrone could definitely submit Alex Oliveira, but we've seen Alex Oliveira go up against high-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighters, and he can hold his own on the ground. He's a great wrestler. And Alex Oliveira is just a sneaky, sneaky fighter. The guy reminds me of a snake. I mean, he's just a sneaky-ass fighter. And I think he's a very talented fighter. I think he might be the next big Cowboy, you know. And the public, the public's going to be all over Donald Cerrone as far as betting. People are going to be laying tons of money on Cerrone. This could be an upset. But, like I said, it could go either way. This is a very exciting fight for me. But I've got Alex Oliveira winning this one.
Yeah, if you weigh it all out, Donald Cerrone should win it. He's got a better skill set.
Higher level competition.
Yeah. Now, on the grappling, I almost have it equal. But on the submission game, it easily goes to Donald Cerrone.
Really? That makes grappling, mainly because of wrestling? Because Oliveira, isn't he a blue belt?
Well, he's a blue belt on paper, but he fought off every submission attempt against 4-time Jiu-Jitsu world champion Gilbert Burns, and he was on short notice until the very last minute of the third round. Now, when I say grappling, I'm talking about positioning, control, sweeps, reversals, escaping, escapes, submission attempts, but I give the actual submission edge to Cerrone.
I would too.
If that makes sense.
Cerrone's deadly off his back. He's deadly just about anywhere on the ground. He's got that signature rear naked choke, and guillotine that he locks in after he rocks guys with his kicks.
Oh yeah, that's a good move.
One of these guys is going to get tagged, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Both these guys are very dangerous fighters. So I'm very excited for this one. I really don't have much else to say here unless you do. But thank you for being on the show. Really appreciate your insight here. You definitely notice little things that sometimes I don't. And I like having that devil's advocate. I like having that other person, especially with a lot of combat experience and, more grappling experience. And, yeah, so, check my boy out, MMA Savant, at MMA_Savant. Follow him. He's also got a YouTube channel, right? You don't have an address set on that, though, I don't think, yet.
Yeah, it's just MMA Savant.
Type in MMA Savant, all one word, on YouTube. You can check him out. He's got some really bold predictions. You can see some of his old predictions where he's cashed, he's had some big underdog picks that people were calling him out on and thought he was crazy for. And they actually, they were winners. So the guy knows his stuff. He's got experience. And I really appreciate you being here and giving your insight once again. Hopefully we can do another show together at some point. And, yeah, this is going to be exciting. Hope everybody enjoys the fights this weekend. And the odds aren't out yet, but we will have odds and plays just before fight card. Make sure that you're following us on Twitter at Best MMA Picks, and on Instagram. We post plays on all of our social medias, and we post our top 3 plays on Facebook and Instagram, and then our last top play on our Twitter. So all of those links are in the bottom of this video. Make sure you're subscribing to our YouTube channel. Make sure that you follow us on all of those. And everybody have a good weekend this weekend and a great week next week. And thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.